Hello to current and future leaders. Thanks so much for joining us for another episode of The Big Idea. I'm your host, Jason Seymour, and I am the spokesperson to the U.S. mission to ASEAN. And today we have a special guest today. Today we have a special guest for you. It's Hannah Baez, who is a Southeast Asian leader who has had a big idea and is turning that big idea into a reality. So let's welcome her to the show. Welcome, Hannah.
Hi, Jason. Thank you so much for having me, and hello to everybody joining us today. I'm very excited
Thank
for
you.
this
Thank you for
episode.
being here. I've been looking forward to this conversation all week. So, Hannah, where are you located today? I know,
Oh,
but tell our audience.
I'm currently based in Davao City. It's actually durian capital of the Philippines. So, if you guys want to eat durian, it's here.
It's durian, the best durians in the Philippines. All
Yeah.
right. Well, we'll
Mhm.
see. Audience, let us know if you agree. So, the reason that I wanted to talk to you so much is that you are very passionate about encouraging Southeast Asian leaders to find their dream, find their purpose.
Mhm.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, thank you so much, Jason, for starting this conversation off with that, as that is really something that's very important to me. And that's a huge part of my narrative and my story as a development worker. So I'm not really sure where to begin exactly, as there are a lot of layers to that story. But I believe I've always had the heart to help marginalized and vulnerable communities ever since I was young. Perhaps because my family, or like my parents, my uncles and aunts, were very generous towards our community, even when we didn't have much. And I think that's a great seed that was
Mhm.
planted in my heart. But my story with Hope for the Nation's Philippines goes way back to when I was still 22 years old. So I was working at this company which I love, and I one day I was at my office desk and I was drinking my cup of coffee, and I was crunching some numbers. And then I realized I didn't really want to crunch numbers for the rest of my life. And so I got myself into thinking, I got myself into thinking about my calling and my purpose. And I asked myself, Hannah, what is that one thing that makes your heart sing, or like that burns within you? So I asked myself, Hannah, what is that one thing that you're so willing to do even when you don't get paid to do it? And right then and there, I knew it was serving marginalized communities. I was just so sure in my heart of hearts. And so I thought I was going crazy. My professors thought I was crazy, and my family thought I was crazy. But maybe I was, because that was a very unpopular decision that time, especially because I just graduated. I just got my license as a CPA, and from someone whom society expected to to make strides in the corporate setup, I think that was really unpopular. But I resigned from my job, Jason. I flew to Davao. I volunteered first at Hope for the Nations Philippines. I lived in one of the slum areas, and mind you, this
Now,
slum
just
area was
pausing
an
for a moment, to quit your job and not have that paycheck every month, that must have
yeah.
been really scary.
Yeah, it was scary and hard, but I took that leap of faith. And you know what, Jason? I just celebrated my 50-year mark last Monday. That's July 11th. And I never felt so alive. And it just feels as though I'm a round peg in a round hole. So I'm very, very, in hindsight, I'm very thankful for that leap of faith. Yeah, and the
Mhm.
reason I'm sharing that, Jason, is that I think it's very critical for everyone, for the youth, to really find your calling, your purpose, or your mission in life. I mean, if we think about it, if you're just going to do something in the next, let's say, 5 to 10 years, like if you pour out your life into that thing, so might as well do something that you love, right? Otherwise, it's going to be
Mhm.
miserable, and there's going to be a lot of stress. So, yeah, that's basically my story in
In
a
America,
nutshell.
sometimes we say YOLO, you only live once.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
you have to find something you're passionate about. Now, obviously,
That's
some people can't make that choice because they have mouths to feed or bills to
right,
pay
right.
or housing, and they really, really struggle. But those are the
That's
type of
true.
people who you wanted to help. So, from
Right.
where did that passion come from? Where did that empathy, that desire to help those kinds of people in need, from where did that come?
Wow. There's actually a story. There are like parts of our story that really make a mark, right? Parts of our life that really make a dent in our, in
Mm,
the way we do things. So mine specifically was this thing that happened when I was 9 years old. If it's okay to share this, it was raining so hard, and I love to shower and bathe in the rain in the gutter. No, just kidding. So I told my mom I wanted to go outside, and then I cried, and then like she just gave in, and she said, "Okay, fine, go shower in the rain." And so when I was like running in the road, I saw that like my one of our neighbors who's very old, like around 80 years old, and her growth is stunted. So she actually slid in the road carrying 2 gallons of water, empty gallons of water. So
Oh,
what she was trying to do was that it was raining so hard, and she was trying to get water from her house to my other neighbor's house with her 2 gallons. She was so old, but then she
uh-huh.
slid, and then she was able to drink a lot of water with the mud. So I was the first one to see her. I asked for help. I shouted for help, and so our neighbors brought her to the hospital. And the following day, my neighbors went to our house and told me that Hannah, the old woman died, and they
Oh,
told me
wow.
that if it weren't for me, she would have died in that place. But so they told
Uh-huh.
me, "Oh, you're actually a hero." But then at the back of my mind, I was thinking, "No, I'm not a hero because that was a preventable death." Imagine, like, I couldn't imagine like going out, under the pouring rain and just getting water because we had water in our house, but there are actually people who don't have water, and this old lady, she passed on just because of that. So I think that's really where, my life
Yes.
turned, and yeah,
She
that's
didn't
where
have
it all
water in
began.
her home, so she had to go to
Hmm.
the well to get water.
Yeah.
And because of
Hmm.
that, that's why she had her accident. Oh, I
Yeah.
see all the steps of your
Yeah.
thinking.
Mhm. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's, yeah.
So now you have this organization, Hope for the Nation, for which you work.
Mhm.
Tell us a little bit more about Hope for the Nation.
All right, so Hope for the Nations Philippines is actually an NGO. It's based in Davao, and we are actually working towards holistically transforming marginalized rural communities. So, if you peel the layers of what our organization stands for, because like we do a lot of things, at the heart of it all, you'll see that we are all about empowering at-risk children. So our focus is mainly on the children. And having worked in the slums region for like several years, we realized
Mhm,
that we can't just do programs mainly for the kids, because at the end of the day, no matter how top notch or like how high quality our programs are, when children would go home, their parents or like their family members or their environment basically would just undo what we taught the children. And so
mhm,
our team, led by our executive director, we went back to the drawing board, and then we laid out all the factors that contribute to the poverty of a child. And so we put it there like it's also predicated on the fact that poverty, is multidimensional in nature. So we put it there like the kids should have proper nutrition, education, health formation, and of course, economic empowerment for the parents. And how we thought about this, Jason, was that we asked ourselves, if these were our kids, then what would we do to give them the best chance at life? And then I was thinking, if
mhm,
these were my kids, I mean, I give them the best education. I make sure they get to eat healthy and nutritious food. I make sure they grow up in safe spaces. So that's how, we thought about it, and we came up with a holistic initiative to address poverty. And that's where we also launched Hectares of Hope as a project first, then we launched it as a social enterprise later on. So
mhm.
right now, basically, Hope for the Nations Philippines, we're all about holistic transformation in rural communities. And if I just might add, Jason, we stand on two things. The first one is we don't do halfway measures in addressing poverty, meaning we don't give crumbs to the poor. We give them the best of the best, like best in terms of training, in terms of mentorship, in terms of our
Mhm.
programs. And number two, we give them opportunities and not charity. I mean, I personally believe the adage still holds true that if you give man fish, we feed him for a day. If you teach him how to fish, we feed him for a lifetime. And so
Mhm.
that's we stand by that adage. And so at the end of the day, we really want to empower these families so that they are able to actively participate in raising their standard of living, and also participate in providing for their families. And at the end of the day, we just want to restore their dignity and boost their morale. So that's basically what Hope for the Nation is all about.
Now, I've been involved in many similar programs around the world. I'd love to share some stories with you about Brazil and my time working in some low income neighborhoods there, but this is not my interview,
Mhm.
this is yours. But I noticed when I was there, I could start to detect which young people, which students, which parents
Mhm.
which ones would likely make a change where
Mm-hmm.
the poverty wouldn't be multi-generational? What do you
Right.
think are the factors that make a difference in people's lives? Why do some people pay attention to these opportunities and take advantage of them? And
Mm-hmm.
why are these programs sometimes not successful? What are some of your tips and theories for the audience?
Well, first and foremost, since I've like worked for 5 years now in this in the development space, I'd say that I think the main factor as to why people from marginalized communities would trust you is that when you build relationships with them. So at Hope for the Nations Philippines and Hectares of Hope, we actually do immersion. We live with a family, so we gotta
Mm,
build relationships with
mm,
them that are genuine. Not it's not
mhm,
transactional, but they're genuine. We get to learn their stories, ask about their struggles, and we come from a point where we don't go to their community as saviors or like heroes, but we go there as partners. We just want to hold their hands and journey with them in in transforming their lives. And so that's a very critical thing to do. You have to build relationships so that the community will trust you, because I mean, based on my experience, these communities are hurt and are wounded from previous organizations who just took pictures of them and exploited them, so to speak. But then, yeah, to your question, it's important to just build relationships with these people, and yeah, and be and share your life as well. So we also share our life, so it's a mutual thing. So at the end of the day, we're partners.
and the word that I would add to what you're saying is trust. You have to create a level of trust that
That's
you
right.
are not there to take advantage of them or to
Mm-hmm.
preach to them. You really want to work with them. You really care about
That's
them, and
correct.
you really want to make a difference and work with them. You have a
Mm-hmm.
couple of fans in the audience. I just
Oh
want to
my
give a
God.
shout out to
I think it's my
Ian
family.
Bonilla Oranio. Thanks for
Ah,
joining us. And Ken Cruzado Raquita. I hope I did well with the pronunciation of your names, but thank you so much for joining us. So, I would like to show the audience some photos from your experiences and your volunteer work. And in
all right.
particular, you mentioned it already, but you have this organization called Hectares of Hope.
Yeah.
So tell our audience a little bit, what is Hectares of Hope? And you can start with explaining to us what this first photo is all about.
All right. So the first photo is actually a drone shot of one of our farm areas at Hectares of Hope. So the reason I love this photo is, number one, it's beautiful to look at. Number two, it reminds me of how we started as a social enterprise. So if you could just imagine in 2020, during the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, when a lot of businesses and NGOs were closing, we my
Yes.
team, our team, headed by our executive director, decided that we won't hunker down. So we looked for a piece of land so that we can launch Hectares of Hope, and we found this. And this stretch of land, if you could just imagine it, it was full of shrubs and weeds. And I mean, nobody would have guessed that something great will come out of it. But then at
Hmm.
Hectares of Hope, we saw so much untapped potential in terms of agricultural productivity and, of course, its ability to create jobs for the families living around. And so we went for it, and we put in the work. We rolled up our sleeves, and now we're here. That's one of our farm areas, and we have a few more farm areas. I just don't have the picture, but basically, Hectares of Hope is a social enterprise working towards um, holistically transforming farming families or partner families living around the area. So, in the same way with Hope for the Nations, we work to alleviate them from poverty and capacitate them, empower them. So, right now, we train them in organic farming. We provide them jobs, so we pay them. They have benefits, basically things that they weren't receiving before. And most of these farmers who are our partners, actually lost their jobs during the pandemic. So this is, I think, this is a very great intervention program for them, and this has really helped them. We just operated for a few. I mean, with the few years that we have operated, we have had profound impact on the families. Yeah, to be honest, so like
What,
that's
what,
something I'm very proud of.
what kinds of crops are they growing?
Okay, so we grow cash crops like lettuce. We have kale, carrots, cherry tomato. So the problem actually with farmers is that they know that they know how to farm, but they don't know how to market their produce. And so we also
Hmm.
market the vegetables for them. so that they won't get exploited by middlemen, and they get, the market price, the best price for the produce. And so that's it.
Hmm.
And if I just may share, Jason, we have this thing called 135 Pathway to Life. It's our strategy because we don't want to help these people in perpetuity and, develop a culture of dependency, but we want to really empower them. So 135, in the first year, we want them to get out of the poverty threshold already. So we train them in farming, we pay them, we give them benefits. For the third year, they already, earn middle class income, because that's really our goal and our dream for them. And in the fifth year, they're already owner operators of the farm. So they share in the profits. And we also envision, raising someone from the farm to become the future CEO. So like, who knows, right? Yeah.
And the other question is, Hectares of Hope. Does Hectares of Hope have sponsors, and how did you find those sponsors? Are they
Also,
private donors, or you work with businesses?
we actually work with investors. So these are people who initially wanted to donate because they caught the vision and they really want to help marginalized communities in the Philippines. But then we want to treat this thing as a business. So we told the people who wanted to donate, oh, you just can invest, and we'll give you a return of your principal and plus interest after 3 to 5 years. So these are investors who really have the heart to help. Yeah.
That's fantastic. All right, let's go to the next photo.
Oh, okay.
So
So this
tell us about
this
this
photo.
gentleman.
All right. This is Nathaniel. This is actually the first. He's the first farmer that we enrolled into our Hackers of Hope program. And I remember when he first came, he was so silent, and he was 30. I think during that time last year, he was 34 years old, and um, he was the first one we enrolled into the program. And since we are big on mentorship, we our executive director really was hands on in developing him as a leader, in training him in financial management or literacy. So little by little, when he was in our program, he actually made positive changes in his decision making because he had a lot of vices. And so, with the changes that he made, his wife and his children are happier, and the family dynamics is just healthier. But what was jaw dropping for all of us was that one day he just came up, and then he told us that he bought a life insurance, and he opened a bank account for the first time. Now the thing with people in remote rural areas is that, number one, they don't have access to financial services. Number two, if they have access, they don't use it. But seeing this farmer who's just 3 months into the program, make a decision to be financially secure, and do that right decision, it was just so mind-blowing, and it was a proud moment for all of us. So like, we're very proud of him. He's still in the farm now doing hard work. So yeah,
Sure, because you had provided him with training,
that's
access
correct.
to an education, financial literacy, but he didn't just take in the information, he acted on it. So that is
That's
exciting
correct.
and a
Right.
sign that you're having an impact.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. I hope Nathaniel, I wish him all the best. You'll have to keep me
Yeah, I'll
updated
let him
with
know.
how he's doing.
Yeah, I'll update you.
All right, let's look at the next photo.
Oh, okay. So this
Hmm.
one is one of our farmers as well. He's 19. He's 20 years old now. So last year he was 19, and he came up to our executive director. He said he's going to build a house for himself, and it was surreal in a way that these the youth from marginalized communities don't actually think of um, pulling in resources just to build a house. They just like go and spend. Some of them, not everybody. But anyway, this particular farmer came up, and then he said he wanted to build a house. And so our executive director offered him money to buy the materials, because we are under the impression that he has a lot of expenses. Maybe he's supporting a family member or an extended family, whatever. So we were like, okay, here's some money, you can use this. And he was like, no, I want to build my house using hard-earned money. And we were like, we're mind blown, because he got it. He got the vision that we want our farmers to emulate. He got the value that we really wanted them to emulate. And so we were very proud of him. He already has a house at 19, and he's the first one to build his own house. So you could
Hmm.
just imagine the sparkle in his eyes and the smile, being able to stand on his own and build his own house using his hard earned money. So there's ownership, there's responsibility, and yeah, the joy is just different,
What
and
a
his
great
dignity
story.
is raised. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Wow. All right. Next photo. All right.
So
Who are
this
these
is
adorable children?
this is a photo of some of our kids in the farm. So three
Uh-huh.
reasons why I love this photo. Okay, I have 3 points. Our first one is I love their smiles. They're so happy, the beaming smile.
Mm-hmm.
Second thing is that as young as they are now, we really want them to have a heart for for farming, for agriculture, because the youth in the Philippines, actually the next generation, don't, not everybody, but a lot of young people right now don't really want to go into farming because farmers comprise the poorest sector in the Philippines. And so we want to change that. And so the kids in the farm, we want to train that. We already give them minimal tasks in the farm, like helping the farmers pull out the weeds or like watering the plants, things like that. So, and the third one is that since there are no opportunities for the parents in the rural areas, most of these parents actually would leave the children behind. So it's very difficult because then the children are left in the house alone and they're lonely. It affects them psychologically, mentally, and emotionally. So right now that Hectares of Hope is in the farm, the parents now don't have to migrate to the cities because there's already opportunity for them where they are. So
I
right
see.
now the
Mm-hmm.
children are happier. They
Sure.
spend a lot of time with their parents. They help their parents
Mm-hmm.
pull out the weeds. So it's a great thing that we were able
I hope
to
those kids
see
are
in
going
the
to
farm.
school too.
Right, because we're planning to open up a school there. So
Oh, good.
I will update you you guys.
Good. Please update me on that. Yes.
Mhm.
And then I believe, yeah, one more photo.
Oh, this is my
All
last
right.
photo.
Big
So
smile.
this is a photo of one of our kids in the slum community we were partnering with in 2017. So just a little bit of context. In 2018, we started it's a leadership school for the kids in the slums. So basically, we homeschooled them. We created our own curriculum, and there was like basic governance, basic accounting, and every Friday we had public speaking. And the first time I met Mariani is her name. She was so shy and she didn't really
Mm-hmm.
speak a lot. But then, because we're big on unearthing the potential of the next generation,
Mm-hmm.
we really were intentional in the way we taught the kids. So if your learning style is like this, we'll teach you like this, something like that. So anyway, I want to share this photo of her because just last week she messaged me on Facebook and she told me, because she's already a grade 12 student, she told me that she's top of her class and she has been
Mm.
sent to several public speaking contests where she won, and I'm very very proud of her. So and she told me that it was our school that really made a huge impact on her and on her unearthing that skill of public speaking. And I think the meat and potatoes of this story is that this is what we really want to achieve at Hope for the Nation's Philippines and Hectares of Hope. We really want to raise kids who grow up to be leaders, competent leaders,
Mhm.
influencers, and pace setters in their generation. And the amazing thing with Mariani, Jason, is that she told me that she's going to take up education because she wants to give quality education to kids from poor communities, kids just like herself. And that's one way of
Well,
saying
you
forward
well,
going.
if you yeah, if you give a child some financial discipline, some communication skills, and just some basic confidence, she will
Hmm.
be a leader.
Right.
So I'm optimistic for her and the other people in your program. Now, I don't want us to run out of time. So thank you for your photos. I do have a couple of other things I want to touch on. You were part of a YSEALI academic fellowship. So I know you were in
Hmm.
Connecticut.
Connecticut.
Please tell
Hmm.
our yes, please tell our audience a little bit about that program.
Okay, so the academic fellowship, I was part of the 2019 cohort for social entrepreneurship and economic development, and it's a very very life-changing opportunity. So first and foremost, I want to thank Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative and of course the US State Department for sponsoring us and sending us to the US. It was very life-changing in that during the fellowship I had a deeper appreciation of the history and the culture of the US. And most importantly, I was able to forge friendships with brilliant fellows across Southeast Asia, and that's really amazing. So I remember
Mm.
Jason, we were at Hartford the first time we met with the other
Uh-huh.
fellows, and we were sharing dinner together, but we were sitting at different tables because we were very shy. But at the end of the
Uh,
program, we were at Washington D.C. and it was so hard to bid by. I mean, a lot. Some
Yeah.
fellows were just literally crying because we grew to be a close knit family, and we still keep in touch, and we're very supportive of each other's endeavors. In fact, one fellow from Singapore is coming over to Davao to check Hectares of Hope
Oh,
next
fantastic.
month. Yes. So yeah, and for me personally, aside from the lifelong friends that I gained during the academic fellowship, I think what really struck me, and I still think about it to this day, is that during the fellowship, Jason, I was able to have a glimpse or like a microcosm of a strong Southeast Asia. You know, it's possible to have a strong, ASEAN region if we just, if we just become unified, if we just work together and set aside differences. Because I've seen that during the fellowship, like we're really, really, really tight. So yeah,
Yeah, it's amazing how these fellowships and exchange programs at the beginning, as you said, people are a little hesitant, a little shy because
yeah,
they don't know anyone, and then wow, the time goes by, lifelong friends. Oh, that's great to
that's
hear. And you
true.
have a couple more fans in the audience, Verdict M
Oh,
and Clarice Cruzado. Thanks so much for joining us. And Hannah, I want to ask you about role models because a lot of people who are leaders are people who have been inspired by others. So I'm wondering, do you have any role models?
well, there are a lot of people that come to mind, honestly. As
Uh-huh.
I've been very fortunate to have been surrounded and mentored by a lot of amazing people. But shall I share three?
Go for it.
So
We have
first, of
time.
course, the first people I really look up to are my parents. I don't have my mom now, as she passed on when I was 19. But the way my dad and my mom raised us, me and my siblings, and the values they instilled in us, like generosity and service to others, really stuck in my heart. And these are the values that have shaped me into who I am now, and I'm very grateful for that. And I owe a great deal of who I am now to them. And the second person I really look up to is our executive director. Actually, he's my uncle, but um, he's hard to really serve, and because he's hard to serve even without recognition, even without a pat in the back. Because development work is very, very hard to do. I mean, there's a lot of things that you have to consider, a lot of challenges. But even without the pat in the back, or it's just commendable that he still has his heart and compassion to serve marginalized communities. And even when the pandemic hit, okay, businesses were closing in Davao, NGOs were closing in Davao, but then my uncle like put his foot down and said that we won't hunker down, but we will launch Hectares of Hope, even when we don't have a lot of resources. And that's really something that I really admire about him, and I only wish to be half the person that he is. And the third one is Abraham Lincoln, because I've been reading about him ever since I was young.
Honest Abe.
And yeah, and and it's just amazing how with grit and hard work he was able to rise through the ranks even when the cards were stacked against him. Imagine he lived his life in abject poverty. He taught himself how to read, things like that. He taught himself how to
Yes.
communicate. Yeah, so I'm actually reading Team of Rivals right now. So I'm still learning a lot about him, but definitely his life
Mhm.
has made a huge impact on me. And success leaves trails, and I'm trying to you know glean wisdom and insights from his life. So yeah, Abraham Lincoln.
Well, he's a wonderful example, and he really touches upon something that you and I believe so strongly that it where someone comes from does not determine where someone ends up. There
That's
is
correct.
lots of opportunities in life, and we hope that people just grab them. And many
Right,
famous celebrities, entrepreneurs, political figures, presidents came from poverty, came from
right.
very limited income scenarios, and they just took advantage of every moment and wanted to give back to their communities. And
Incredible.
that's why we know
Yeah,
about them. Wow, what wonderful stories. We just scratched the surface, but you mentioned at the beginning you had to do something that made your heart sing. Well, something that makes my heart sing speaking to Southeast Asian leaders such as
Ah,
yourself.
thank
So
you.
this has been such a wonderful conversation. And for everyone in the audience, thanks so much for joining us for another episode of The Big Idea. If you want to know about Hectares for Hope and everything that Hannah Baez is up to, we'll have her contact information in the description. And please, if you have recommendations for other people we should be interviewing, please let us know. Any comments for us here at the show? We hope you will continue to join us and be part of our conversation. So thanks so much. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you so
Thank
much
you,
for joining
Jason.
us.
Thank you, US Mission Sassian. Thank you. Bye.
Take care, everyone. Bye
Take
bye.
care.